Robert Saleh, according to what I read this week, I don't know if this is accurate, but Robert Saleh is adamant that he wants the Niners to re-sign Dre Greenlaw. Is this Robert Saleh trying to be popular with Fred Warner, who's his most important defensive player, who will wear the green dot, who he's going to have lots of dialogue with? Is he taking one for the team because Fred wants Dre back? Or do you think Saleh sees? I'll say this. I would love Greenlaw to be back, but Grant, it has to be at the right price. Like, the Niners let two free agents walk. And I loved them both, and yet I had different feelings on both. One was DJ Jones. Loved DJ Jones, but he got paid $30 million, and you had to say goodbye. The other was Jimmy Ward. He got 1 year, $6 million from Houston, and the Niners said goodbye. If Dre Greenlaw gets a 3 year, $24 million deal, you wave goodbye and you wish him well. Yeah. But if he gets a 1 year offer for $6, $7, or $8 million, I think you bring him back, you draft some young linebackers, and you let him pass that kind of the Niner way, their standard, whatever you want to call it, down to the young guys. I think you got to have a little bit of that. And if Greenlaw, I like Sherwood and some of these other linebackers, Willie Gay, there's a few interesting linebackers, but none of them are going to be the culture setter like Greenlaw. And I think you got to go attack it in the draft anyway. What's your thought? You've already said that you don't want Greenlaw back, but I know what you meant. I mean, you have nothing against Dre. You just
1 year, $6 million. That's fine.
Right.
But 3 years, now you can't keep it. You can't keep investing in older players coming off these injuries. And I think you're asking, why did Saleh say this? You got to remember that if and when Dre Greenlaw leaves, that's going to be like a big blow to the locker room. They love him. Yeah. And it's not just Fred Warner. It's the whole team. It's Nick Bosa. He said it's his favorite player he's ever played with. So if he leaves and gets a big money deal somewhere, I think they'll understand it, although it'll still hurt. But if he leaves and gets like a minor deal somewhere else, it could piss players off. And I don't think Robert Saleh wants to be seen as the guy who orchestrated that. So he's like, I am the biggest Greenlaw fan. Sure, but it's still business.
It's going to be interesting. The fact that he says he's adamant, I wonder if that will move the needle. And then Boston College's secondary coach, Ray Brown, was hired this week as the Niners' new cornerback coach. And it makes me wonder if Donovan Ezeraku, who's an excellent Boston College edge rusher, may be a Niner draft pick in the second or third round with Brown coming over. Now, Brown didn't coach him per se, but he was coached defense on a defense where this guy dominated up front. Any thoughts on the new Niner cornerback coach? I guess he replaces Brandon Staley to some degree, who kind of did this a year ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's curious how he landed on the Niners' radar in the first place, considering he's been a college DB coach since 2010. So Robert Saleh must have a good eye, but I think what you brought up is key. He was at Boston College. So he was working for Bill O'Brien. Maybe that's the connection, NFL coach. And then there's a couple of players from Boston College who are going to get drafted in day 2 this year. The edge rusher you just said, and an offensive Ozzie, someone or other. What's that dude's name?
Trapillo.
Yes.
Trapillo.
And I looked him up, and guess who they compare him to on NFL.com in his draft profile?
Pooney?
McKivitz.
Wow.
So this guy might be someone the Niners like. You know what I mean? They like McKivitz. So it's possible that usually the Niners coaches are heavily involved in the drafting process, and maybe Saleh wants an insider's opinion on those two players or the defensive player in particular.
Last one, quarterback. Brock's your one. I would imagine Dobbs is gone, and I would imagine Brandon Allen, even though he has Brock's same agent, probably is also gone. And they got Tanner Mordecai, so they're probably looking for a quarterback. I bring this up because what would you like to see in that other quarterback? Somebody's like, Krug, you're obsessed with the number 2 quarterback. It's like, no, I'm not obsessed with the number 2 quarterback. I'm obsessed with the Niners getting back to the playoffs, and the only way they won't get back there with next year's schedule is if Brock gets hurt and their number 2 quarterback stinks. So I kind of do want a veteran number 2 quarterback, but I did see that the Niners met with a Canadian quarterback who I watched on film last night, Grant, and I would encourage everybody to go watch this guy. He played for Laurier, which he's from Ontario. He's from London, Ontario. He played in Canada. He's a 6'6", 215-pound quarterback who throws the hell out of the ball. His name's Taylor Elgersma, and he did get invited to the Senior Bowl. He was an academic all-Canadian guy, so he's a smart guy. He's obviously a big kid who's very athletic. He's got big hands, and he throws the heck out of the football. And I'm just telling you, go watch this guy, Taylor Elgersma. I have a feeling that he might be their quarterback. They did meet with him already. He might be a draft pick for them. What I've heard names like Flacco and Andy Dalton, and I'm cool with that. I'm okay with Andy Dalton or Flacco as the number 2 next year. Who would you like to see in that QB room outside of Brock?
I don't want them to do what they did last year, where they brought in a stiff who fits their system. I don't give a damn if the quarterback has the same style of play as Brock Purdy, if he's going to go in and lose, like Brandon Allen. So right. What I think is the move that every team needs to do, you see it from the Patriots to the Packers. I think your backup quarterback should be a dual threat quarterback, not just a mobile guy, but a guy who's a runner. And I think you should be developing him. That should be your project. I think every team should have that project, because if it hits and you end up getting Jalen Hurts, then all of a sudden you have the ultimate weapon in football. I'm not saying Jalen Hurts is the ultimate weapon in football, but as we've seen, mobile, true dual threat quarterbacks are pretty impossible to stop. I think the Niners should have one. I think the fact that the Packers have Malik Willis is genius, and it worked for them. I mean, he won games for them. You're a run first team. He can add to that. I'd like to see the Niners go after someone like Trey Lance. Just kidding. I was thinking Justin Fields. I actually really like Jalen Milroe, and I wouldn't draft Jalen Milroe in round 2, and I wouldn't trade up for Jalen Milroe. But if he's just hanging around waiting for you when you have your comp pick at the end of round 3, I mean, he might be the best athlete in the class. He's going to run a 4.3 at like 225 pounds. Be an interesting project to have. But Justin Fields, if he wants the job, that'd be who I'm interested in.
I would be intrigued by Milroe if he were projected on day 3, but I can't go day 2. He looked really raw at the Senior Bowl, but I agree with you. He's 6'1", he's 220. He runs exceptionally well. He's really, really athletic. Some of the best throws he's made are as good as any throw you've seen from any quarterback all year. I'll say 3 names that people should keep their eyes on. One is Riley Leonard, Notre Dame, who runs really well at 6'3", 210. He doesn't throw it great, but he runs really well. The other is Peyton Thorne from Auburn, whose dad and grandfather, I think, both played football, and he's super fast, super athletic, 6'1", 210, the Auburn quarterback. And I guess the third guy would be this guy's Elgersma, who seems like he moves pretty well as well.